Coming in at my number 10 favorite Korean thriller is the 2014 film A Hard Day, starring Lee Sung-gyun and Cho Jin-woo. A Hard Day has a very mysterious vibe while also giving suspense right from the start and becomes nearly an action film near the end. The movie was directed by Kim Sung-hoon, who also directed Tunnel. The synopsis of the film is as follows. Following his mother's funeral, Detective Go receives an urgent call and leaves for the police station. On his drive towards the station, he hits and kills a man. Thinking on his feet, he puts the body in his car trunk. Needing a place to hide the body, a place where nobody can find it, he decides to place the corpse in his mother's coffin alongside his dead mother. Just when he thought he was in the clear, a man claiming he knows everything shows. Next, the number 9 spot goes to another movie with a similar tone of mysteriousness, Memoir of a Murderer. This movie was the most recently released film on the list, being released in 2017, and stars Seo Kyung-gu, Kim Nam-gil, Seoryeon, and Oh Dal-soo. The movie was directed by Won Jin-yeon, who also directed The Suspect and more recently The Battle: Road to Victory. The synopsis of the movie is as follows. Byung-soo was a serial killer in the past but is now suffering from Alzheimer's disease. After getting into a car accident, he meets Taeju and discovers the same look in the eyes of Taeju that he once had, and intuition hits him that Taeju is also a murderer. Byung-soo reports Taeju as a serial killer to the cops, but no one believes him. After this, Taeju roams around Byung-soo, and Byung-soo tries to find any evidence to prove his case against Taeju, but his memories continues to fail him. In the midst of this, his old murder habit starts to kick in, and he falls into confusion between reality and delusion. Coming in at the number 8 spot is the 2012 film Confession of Murder. Being very intrigued at the story and totally shocked by the acting performance of the villain, played by Jung Hae-gyun. His acting still gives me the chills. The film stars Jung Jae-young and Park Si-woo and was directed by Chung Byung-gil, who also directed The Villainess. This has one of the most interesting storylines I've seen. The synopsis is as follows. 15 years ago, there was a case of serial killing that shook the nation. However, the statute of limitation ended before the suspect was caught. Detective Choi, the detective who was in charge of the case, was left with just a huge scar both physically and mentally after failing to catch the criminal. 2 years later, a man named Lee Joo-seok released a book titled I Am the Killer, wherein which he reveals that he was the serial killer. The book instantly becomes a bestseller, and Lee Joo-seok, with his handsome appearance and charismatic speech, becomes a star. Detective Choi tries to connect the last incident that was left unsolved with Lee Joo-seok, yet is the law on his side? The number 7 best thriller of Korean movies may be a little debatable, as it definitely has a different type of suspense compared to the other films on the list, and some may not even consider it a quote-unquote thriller. However, this film kept me not only entertained throughout, but at the edge of my seat, and the twist it has makes it a wonderful movie. Directed by the one and only Bong Joon-ho, Mother is the number 7 best Korean thriller. Starring Kim Hae-ja and Won Bin, Mother is a masterpiece that was gifted to us by Bong Joon-ho, who also directed The Host, Snowpiercer, Okja, and most recently, Parasite. As with other films by Bong Joon-ho, the movie is not only entertaining, but has a greater message and is very thought-provoking. The synopsis of Mother is as follows. For a widow mother, her son is all she has. The 28-year-old son, Tojun, is a troublemaker that worries his mother. One day, a young girl is murdered, and Tojun ends up being the prime suspect. There isn't any real evidence that points to Tojun, but the police throw groundless suspicion at him. The mother does whatever she can to save her son, but the cops are in a hurry to close the case. The defense attorney is incompetent and is only after money. Without any other choice, the mother decides to take it upon herself to prove her son's innocence. The number 6 best Korean thriller goes to the 2015 film Inside Men. Starring Lee Byung-hun, Jo Seung-woo, and Baek Yoon-sik, the film had incredible acting performances that's still referenced to this day on TV shows and even everyday life. Directed by Umino, who also directed The Spies, Drug King, and more recently, The Man Standing Next, Inside Men is a revenge/action/crime thriller that's definitely worth watching if you love movies such as Veteran and The Outlaws. The movie's synopsis is as follows. The leading presidential candidate, a chairman of a conglomerate, and a renowned editorial writer who has massive power to sway public opinion, plan a scheme to give the presidential candidate the upper hand. An Sang-gu plans a transaction to release records of the sponsored sludge fund, and once he gets caught, he pays the price by getting his hand chopped off. Once prosecutor Woo Jang-hoon smells something fishy with the upcoming elections, he starts to dig into the background story of what went on with the candidate, chairman, and editor. However, the investigation is short-lived as the record of the sludge fund was taken by An. The man that wants revenge on the politically powerful, the one that wants to use An to reveal the sludge fund records, and the men who need to swipe it all under the rug. Who will come out on top? Before going into the top 5 list, can you guess which movies were my personal favorite Korean thrillers? Have your favorite thrillers come out yet? Which do you think will be presented next? Comment down below. Now then, without further ado, let's get into the top 5 list. The number 5 best thriller is also one of the most disturbing and gruesome. However, I think that's what makes it so much more creepy and suspenseful. This is the real genre of thrillers that Koreans do or did well, as we don't really see anything like it anymore. This definitely isn't for the weak-hearted. In fact, the whole top 5 list from here on out isn't for the faint-hearted. The number 5 spot goes to Traffickers. The 2012 film Traffickers stars In Chang-jung, Choi Daniel, Oh Dal-soo, and Cho Yoon-hee, and was directed by Kim Hong-sun, who also directed The Con Artist, The Chase, and the 2019 horror/thriller Metamorphosis. Side note, Metamorphosis was another pretty good horror/thriller, and I have a full video movie review on it, so be sure to check it out as well. I'll leave the links to all the reviews of the movies mentioned in the descriptions. I picked this film as the number 5 best thriller because it not only has thrill and suspense, but the movie is so gruesome. Some may even call it too gruesome, and it's disturbing while also having a great plot. Not to mention the amazing acting performances. This is one of the most underrated thrillers, I believe. I've seen most of the other movies on this list on people's favorites list, but this one, not so much. But do check it out if you love thrillers. The synopsis of Traffickers is as follows. Amongst the many on board the ferry bound for Weihai, China, are Sang-ho and Chae, a couple that's excited to voyage on their first vacation together. However, that excitement is short-lived. That night, Chae disappears into thin air. What brings about even greater bewilderment is that there isn't a single picture of the two together on the trip, and all of the wife's belongings are gone. To top it all off, she isn't even on the list of passengers. Meanwhile, the industry leader of organ trafficking, Yong-yu, receives an irresistible proposal. A very discreet operation to take out and deliver the quote-unquote product. But Yong-yu is shocked when he finds Chae, the wife of Sang-ho and a woman he knew before, lying on the surgical table. With just 6 hours left until arriving at the destination, Sang-ho is on the pursuit to find his wife, and Yong-yu is left in a dilemma where he can't save or kill Chae. The number 4 best Korean thriller is also probably one of the most internationally recognized thrillers. I remember seeing people on YouTube and social media talk about this movie that aren't even in the field of Korean movies. That's how much global recognition it caught. The number 4 spot goes to the 2016 film The Wailing, starring Kwak Do-won, Hwang Jung-min, Kunimura Jun, Chun Woo-hee, and Kim Hwan-hee. The movie's not only a thriller, but also on borderline horror, and has extreme suspense and mysterious vibes. From the acting to the story and everything in between, The Wailing was amazing. The movie was directed by Na Won-jin, who also directed Yellow Sea, and the synopsis is as follows. Upon the arrival of a strange man, a town starts to suffer from a series of mysterious events. The police closes the case, claiming that it's the addiction to the mushrooms that the villagers have for the reason of the events, but rumors and suspicions spread that the cause of all the incidents was due to the new strange man. Jong-gu, a cop, meets with a woman that claims she witnessed the incident and starts to believe all the rumors. As his own daughter starts to show symptoms of the same nature as the affected villagers, Jong-gu starts to go after the truth. The number 3 movie of the best Korean thrillers is another film directed by Na Won-jin, the director of the number 4 movie, The Wailing. The number 3 movie is The Chaser, starring Kim Yoon-suk and Ha Jung-woo. This film has one of the most memorable lines, scenes, and stories of all Korean movies. It's the movie that really marked Ha Jung-woo as an incredible actor, at least for me. And although the movie is on the older side now, being released in 2008, it still is an amazing movie even to this day. The famous Sapaparo is also one of the most recognized movie lines in Korean cinema. The synopsis is as follows. Jung-ho is a former cop that now operates an on-call prostitution business. Several of the women that work for him start to disappear, and he soon finds that the customer that called for Mi-jin has the same number as the several missing girls' last calls. He tries to get in contact with Mi-jin right away, but it's too late as he cannot reach her. As he goes out to find Mi-jin, he runs into Young-min. He discovers blood on Young-min's clothes and realizes right away that he's the guy he's been looking for and starts chasing him down. After a long chase, he eventually captures him and reports him to the police. At the station, Young-min, ever so calmly, confesses that he killed all the girls, leaving everyone shocked, and the police station turns upside down. Amidst all the chaos, Young-min says with a chilling smile that Mi-jin is probably still alive. However, there isn't a single solid evidence that could keep Young-min in possession. The authorities put all focus on finding evidence rather than finding Mi-jin, and Jung-ho, who still believes Mi-jin is alive, puts all focus on finding her. And now, just 2 movies left. Which movie was my second favorite Korean thriller? The number 2 spot goes to another very, very gruesome and disturbing movie of Korean cinema, I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Devil stars Lee Byung-hun and Choi Min-sik, and just for the lead actors themselves is a reason to go and watch this movie. The acting performances are phenomenal, and the revenge story mixed in with the action, suspense, and gore made this movie a must-watch thriller. The movie was directed by the incredible Kim Ji-yoon, who also directed The Age of Shadows, Illang the Wolf Brigade, The Good, the Bad, the Weird, A Tale of Two Sisters, and A Bittersweet Life. He's definitely an experienced director. The movie synopsis is as follows. After Soo-yeon, an NIS agent, loses his fiancée in a brutal murder, he feels extreme shame, guilt, and anger that he wasn't able to protect the woman he loves. Thus, he commits to taking revenge in the most gruesome way he can think of. After discovering that Chang Kyung-chul is the culprit, he starts to inflict severe pain on Chang just right up until he actually dies and lets him go. He repeats this process over and over to show Chang the same level of pain he had to go through after losing his love. However, Chang, a more vicious killer than the devil himself, starts to fight back, enjoying the equal appearance of an adversary that he's never met before in his life. And now we are left with just one single movie. The best Korean thriller, according to me. If you are a fan of Korean movies and have been watching Korean cinema for a while, I think you could guess the number 1 Korean thriller of my top 10 list. The number 1 spot goes to the amazing film directed by the amazing director Bong Joon-ho, Memories of Murder. This movie tops the list for not only best Korean thriller for a lot of people, but best thriller in general. This movie was based on true events, and the film gets extremely suspenseful as it progresses. Memories of Murder is considered as the best Bong Joon-ho film by many, even surpassing Parasite, and I can understand why, as this is a definite must-watch. The synopsis of the movie is as follows. 1986, in the countryside of Gyeonggi-do province of South Korea, a young woman is found dead after being brutally beaten and raped. 2 months later, another body of a young lady is found in the same way. As the incidents start to receive massive international coverage, the whole country starts to be filled with fear, as nothing like this has ever occurred in the country before. A special investigation team comprised of Captain Gu, Detectives Park and Cho, who are natives to the town, and Detective Seo from Seoul, is placed in the area of the incidents. As a possible suspect was arrested and closure of the case seemed to be in sight, the suspect denies the crime at the on-site verification scene, where there's heavy media coverage. The scene becomes a total mess, and thus, Captain Gu is dismissed from his position. The criminal is known for leaving no traces of himself, to the extent that leaves the investigators dumbfounded. The only clue he leaves is the fact that he uses items that were worn by the victims to kill and tie them up. Even in cases where he raped the victims, he left no traces of himself on the bodies. As the new captain, Shin, joins the team, the investigation starts to pick up steam. With not a single hair to go off of, Park Do-man searches nearby locations to find possible suspects, and Seo, who was receiving case files, finds a connection in that the victims were all women in red clothes and that the murders happened on a rainy day. Thus, the detectives plan a trap by planting a cop in red clothing on a rainy day. However, the plan doesn't go as planned as another victim is found, dead. The case is reset back to phase 1 and the media gets even more riled up, making the detectives go crazy. That concludes today's video on my list of best Korean thrillers. I know some movies you expect may not have been included in this list, such as The Host. However, also, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more Korean movie related content. Once again, thank you to everyone and I'll see you guys in the next one.